creator and destroyer of worlds. Hear my vow!
Right, Chris.
Hello.
Both had a look at Lords of the Fallen, haven't we?
Yeah, well, I have just had a look at it. You played it with your hands. I got to watch someone else play it, which is almost as fun, but not actually as fun.
As fun. I played it for about 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And I think you actually played the bit that I saw. So the tagline that everyone seems to have gone for, the reason people are talking about Lords of the Fallen, it seems, is because people like saying, is this the next gen Dark Souls?
Next gen Dark Souls, innit?
Jim Trinker, is it the next gen Dark Souls?
I'm not convinced it is. And that's not meant in a disparaging way. Mm-hmm. It's just
that's probably a compliment coming for you.
Well, Lords of the Fallen is very like Dark Souls, to the point where even the control system is very like Dark Souls.
Yeah, it's a game about rolling around to avoid attacks that can do a lot of damage. The combat's very similar, but the actual buttons you press to interact with the game are pretty much the same as Dark Souls. Mm-hmm. Which surprised me, because the thing about the Dark Souls control system is that for the kind of game it is, it's actually fairly unique. So that surprised me. I didn't expect Lords of the Fallen to be quite sort of wholesale. This is Dark Souls. Yeah, and it is a game about tough boss fights with mobs in between that can still cause you a lot of trouble.
Yeah. There's so many similarities. Yeah. It looks similar.
Dark fantasy.
The intricacies are different.
I agree.
And it's for that reason that I think calling it a next-gen Dark Souls is perhaps being a bit naive or missing the point. It's obviously a different game. There's different intricacies. There's different things going on.
I think one of the big differences for me was just the kind of the speed of the whole thing.
It's very differently paced.
Yeah. So
Souls games. Yeah.
Well, like we said, the mobs in between the boss fights, they appear, similar. The tough opponents, by and large. I remember there was a chap with a big tower shield that the guy who was demoing it had some trouble with, and that seemed like an enemy I expect from a Souls game. It was a big shield, and the idea was you have to get behind him and do damage that way. And then if you die, the save point wasn't that far away. A big thing about the Souls games, and one of the reasons people have problems with it, I think, is that often getting to the boss fight, it can be harder than the fight itself, and that can be really discouraging. Yeah. I think it's trying to avoid that to an extent. And there are similarities there. The things like when you die, you drop your experience, right?
Yeah.
However, in Lords of the Fallen, I thought it was quite an interesting take on it. The moment you respawn, you need to get back to that XP as quickly as you can, because it will start to dwindle.
You will start to dwindle, but you still keep accruing XP while you're getting to the XP that you've dropped. So you can sort of balance it out or get even more by the end of it. The demo we played, the first two enemies you encounter were, we were told they were blind, so they could hear you and not see you. So you could sneak up to them. But two identical looking enemies, same enemy type, except one respawns as soon as you kill it, where the other one doesn't. I didn't understand what the difference was.
Yeah, I remember that as well. That was the part around, there was kind of a pit in the middle of the room, right?
Exactly.
And there was what was over it, like a grating or something? And if you walk across it and you're too heavy, depending on the armor you're wearing, it collapses and you fall through it. And you could use that to...
You can use that against enemies. Well, of course, you don't get, if you kill them like that, you don't get the loot drops or the XP.
Right. Okay.
And there is a situation in that bit of the game where the opportunity that presents itself to make that enemy drop down that hole. Apparently that enemy has a shield which can help you in the boss fight later on, so you're sort of sacrificing that loot if you take the easy way to kill him, so you got to weigh it up.
Actually, I'm talking with the loot. I remember with the kind of dungeon area they were showing in particular in that demo, it did seem like there was that kind of almost like a Zelda-like progression to it, because just before the boss fight there was a chest with some Thys weapons in it, which proved to be a really, really good counter to the boss.
I think this is where the demos we were looking at differ, because I never saw those fist weapons at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I got to play a boss fight, but it was a separate to the main demo we were showing.
Okay, so the boss fight I saw was like a big muscly chap that kind of charged at you, you sidestep, he hits a wall, and then you hit him with these weapons you've just found out outside, and that feels like a lot of games I've played. It feels Darksiders-y.
Absolutely. The art style actually on the characters is a little bit Darksiders on this. But the boss fight I saw, it wasn't running into walls so much as swinging a massive sword and getting it stuck in the ground, that old chestnut.
God, yeah, I like they're getting all the tropes. Excellent.
Bosses are thick as shit, aren't they?
They really are.
But yeah, that thing about making the enemy fall down the hole as well, it's depending on weight. So you could fall down that hole if the weight stat on your armor was high enough.
I think it's interesting. I remember I talked to the developer after the demo, and they seem to suggest that one of the things they really wanted to separate themselves from the Souls games was environmental deaths, because they felt that sometimes they can feel a bit cheap, and I don't think I disagree. Sometimes the kind of Indiana Jones boulders in Dark Souls 2 falling off ledges by accident can be pretty frustrating in a game like that. But then there was that element to it, which is you probably wouldn't realize the first time you walked across that grate. Your armor was too heavy. I wouldn't have been.
It wouldn't really occur to you.
No.
Although it might occur to you if you were like 10 hours into the game at that point.
And you've seen like 20 grates.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder if that'll happen.
I don't know. I mean, but another interesting thing as well, because what happens, you'll see on the footage that you dispatch these two enemies in that little chamber with the pit.
Yep.
And then you go through a corridor and this guy starts running towards you. So you basically like go backwards over the grate. Grate's between you and him, he falls into it, can't see it, off he goes. Fine. But I managed to get other enemies to fall into that hole as well.
What, after it had been cleared?
After it had been cleared.
Was that like them?
Just by backing into that room again and making them fall.
Were they swinging at you and kind of?
No, they were just walking towards me. Again, you just go back.
That kind of ruins the magic of it a little bit, doesn't it?
Between you and them, and they're heading towards you in a straight line, so they just fall into it.
Excellent.
So AI is very easily fooled.
Yeah, it wants to hit you with its sword.
Yeah,
and that's about as far as it gets.
That's its only directive.
Fair enough.
Walk to man, hit man. There's the puzzles and switching and all that kind of stuff that's in there as well. So I mean, I think it's perhaps doing it a disservice to sort of say that this is somebody's attempt at doing Dark Souls, because there are differences, and as I say, that there'll be different intricacies and stuff like that. What worries me about it is that I'm not sure who it's for.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Yeah, like the. So do you think this is targeted at people that maybe need a middle ground, something a little bit more?
It was kind of maybe suggested that this is an accessible Dark Souls type game.
Okay.
I don't think it's that much more accessible. I think it's just as rock solid. It's just different. Going back to who is it for? Is it for Dark Souls fans? I'm not convinced it is for them, because I'm not convinced that they'll be into it, because it by definition isn't Dark Souls. People who aren't into Dark Souls might well be put off by the fact that it is very Dark Souls.
Do you know who it is for, I think? I think it's for game journalists who want to say, is this game the next gen Dark Souls? I think that is why this game exists. we will check it out when it comes out.
Oh, absolutely.
Hopefully...
We'll have to get Brett to check it out, though, because we'll be shit at it.
Yeah. Hopefully it does have something that separates it outside of just being a next-gen game. Hopefully there's some things that give it a unique flavour. I'm not sure we've seen too much of that yet, but we'll see what happens.
What we've seen has been very limited as well.
Yep.
And I think what we've seen has basically demonstrated how Soulsy it is, if Soulsy is even a word.
I think it should be if it isn't.
So it's demonstrated that aspect of it. It's also demonstrated that there are differences under the hood. But I haven't yet seen what makes Lords of the Fallen. I've seen what makes Lords of the Fallen a bit like Dark Souls.
I agree.
I just worry that I've not seen its actual identity. I want to see more of the game. I just hope that it's
a good game.
I hope that it finds its own identity before it comes out.
Alright, I'm Detective Inspector Tam McLeish and this is a shitebag test. Click that and subscribe. If you didn't, you're a shitebag and you're going in there, right?